Danny Shaw's analysis of in the I newspaper is one of the most precise and damning autopsies of bureaucratic dysfunction in recent memory, and specifically of the Home Office. And it begins not with an ideological charge, but with a spreadsheet, the forensic symbol of a system gone to seed. External consultants poring over the Home Office's asylum accommodation accounts discovered that a third of all contracted bed spaces were empty, and worse, that the department had been paying for 244 beds in hotels that didn't even exist. It's the sort of grotesque absurdity that might feature in a Kafka novel if Kafka had known about procurement spreadsheets and had been instructed by Suella Braverman or Priti Patel or James Cleverly or one of these individuals. This scandal, uncovered by outsiders rather than internal auditors, exposes what Shaw calls the Home Office's wider malaise, a department incapable of delivery, riven by managerial cowardice, addicted to outsourcing and insulated from reality. And the problem, as he reminds us, is not new. Nearly 2 decades ago, John Reed, not the Gilbert and Sullivan aficionado, but the Labour politician, declared the Immigration Directorate not fit for purpose after the fiasco of undeported prisoners. 19 years on, Labour's Shabana Mahmood has repeated the same phrase, as though trapped in a loop of bureaucratic self-reproach. The machinery creaks on, unchanged, unimproved, and seemingly unaccountable. Shaw traces this chronic incapacity through a string of structural reforms that only deepened the chaos. The creation of the UK Border Agency in 2008 was meant to insulate ministers from failure by placing operations at arm's length. But the discovery in 2012 that border checks had been relaxed without ministerial approval led to yet another reabsorption into the Home Office, concentrating power but also blame. The paradox is cruel. Centralisation brought responsibility but not competence. What Shaw's reporting captured particularly well is the human dimension of institutional failure. Out of 57,000 staff, 3/4 work at the sharp end: border control, asylum enforcement, passports, while the same leadership remains detached, timid and technocratic. Nick Timothy's review, quoted by Shaw, describes a culture of defeatism where managers are reluctant to take responsibility or get their hands dirty. It's a department where delivery is despised, where policy is a form of abstraction, where morale has sunk so low that the Institute for Government identifies it as one of the most demoralised institutions in Whitehall. Shaw's discussion of the airwave fiasco, a communications upgrade for emergency services, now 10 years behind schedule and £3.1 billion over budget, crystallises the department's incompetence with technology and procurement. Here again, the theme is one of delusion. Officials who cannot manage contractors, ministers who cannot grasp technical limits, and civil servants who fear telling the truth upward. As one insider remarks, involving the Home Office in any IT project is fraught with danger. And yet, the government plans to introduce ID cards. The article culminates in a striking proposal to split the Home Office into 2 ministries, one for policing and security, the other for borders and immigration. It's a radical suggestion, but Shaw treats it as necessary surgery rather than bureaucratic tinkering. The Home Office's £28 billion remit, he argues, is too vast and too politically combustible for any one Secretary of State to handle. A smaller, more focused departmental structure could foster accountability and clarity. Not everyone agrees. Shaw notes that Sir Philip Rutnam, the former permanent secretary who resigned over bullying allegations, insists that the department still has impressive achievements such as the Homeland Security Unit and the EU settlement scheme. Yet Shaw's argument is that these are exceptions that prove the rule. They show that when a single project has clear lines of authority and strong external expertise, success is possible. When left to its own culture, the department decays. Shaw's piece is not simply a criticism of bureaucracy, but an implicit reflection on governance itself. The Home Office has become the graveyard of ministerial reputations and the emblem of Britain's administrative stagnation. From the Windrush scandal to asylum chaos, from policing failures to IT disasters, it has absorbed every possible reproach while learning nothing. His call to dismantle it is less an act of destruction than of mercy. Ultimately, Shaw's essay reads like a lament for the erosion of civic competence. The British state, once famed for administrative precision, now stumbles over the simplest tasks of record-keeping and responsibility when outsiders must point out that the government is paying for imaginary hotel beds. Something profound has gone wrong. Why is this not headlining across every single newspaper and media media institution in the UK? Why is it not headlining in the BBC? I don't understand. Reform is no longer, and I talk about reform of the Home Office rather than Reform UK. Reform is no longer a matter of efficiency. It's a matter of national credibility. Shaw's piece in the I paper is elegant, rigorous and quietly furious. It argues that the Home Office's dysfunction is not a passing embarrassment but an enduring condition, and the language must be measured, but the conclusion is explosive. Britain's most powerful department has ceased to function as a coherent instrument of government. Only by breaking it apart might the nation hope to rebuild the competence it once took for granted.